Hi, welcome to megahobby.com with our product review and how-to series. And today we're going to talk a little bit about mud effects. And when I say mud effects, I mean literally creating mud, scale mud for your vehicles. And you can do it on civilian vehicles, military vehicles. We picked this TACOM World War I British tank that we were playing with earlier to show mud because these guys operated in the trenches in World War I, and it was total mud and just nasty, nasty, nasty place to be. And these vehicles would get totally caked with mud. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little section down here and just put some mud on and show you how to mix it up using AK Interactive's Mud Effects Enamel Color Set. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's just paint. How does it make mud? We're going to use this weathering plaster base to mix into that paint to create a sludge or a mud. So my first step, I got the bottles of material out of the package. One of them says dark mud, one of them says fresh mud, and one of them says earth effects. I think that what I would do is use the fresh mud to make it look like real mud. And these others, the dark mud and the earth effects, we can use as a wash around it just to highlight that mud. So I'm going to take this fresh mud and I'm going to take the weathering base, or I should say the plaster base, open it up, and you see it's a plaster powder that's made to mix with this color and create mud. So what we'll do is, I think we'll do it in the lid of this jar so you can see what I'm doing. I'll take a little bit of the plaster, and I'm not going to do the whole tank, I'm just going to do a section, and what I would do normally would be to put it all around where these tracks go, because it's churning up and getting all over the side. So we'll take a little bit of the plaster, and then we will take this fresh mud, and the other product you'll probably want will be some of this white spirit, which is an AK mixing product. It's a thinner. And we'll open this jar up. Yep. Put the cap back in there. And we'll mix it. And whenever you use products like this, make sure you mix them up well. Either stir it or shake it vigorously before you open it and use it. I should have shaken it, but I didn't. So we'll take some of this material and drop it in here. And then we'll take a little bit, probably be a good idea to put a little bit more of the plaster in. So we'll take a little bit of this. And we'll take a brush, or you could do it with, any tool that you feel comfortable with. I like to use a brush. We'll scoop up some of this mud and just kind of stilt it on the back of the tank. We'll just kind of blob it on here. Oops. And this is supposed to look like fresh mud, so it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. But you just keep taking some of the solid stuff. I'm going to put this down. Now, as this dries, you can stipple it with your brush and get some texture into it. I still think I need a little bit more powder. I can hand mix the powder as well with the brush. Just kind of go to town here. So it's really up to you how dry you want this to look and how much mud you want on there. I mean, you might want to really glob it on if you're doing a tank that's in Russia in the winter that's driving through big banks of mud, or like I say, a World War I tank like this one. And like I say, you take your time and be artistic with it and just apply it where you think it should go and give it some time to dry. And after you're dry, you can go back and clean it up a little bit. But it's almost just like the real thing, like you're throwing mud at it. Okay, so we've used the first step in the AK Mud Effects, which was to pick a color for our mud. We picked fresh mud because we wanted it to look like this thing's just been off the battlefield or still there actually. You could have used dark mud if you wanted to do that, but there's also a bottle in here called Earth Effects, and that is a matte dark earth wash. And what you would do with this is, and hopefully this is still a little bit wet, but hopefully we'll be able to show you what this does. And this is basically a wash that we'll put over the mud, hopefully to highlight and show depth for the mud. And I'll use some of this AK white spirit. I put it in a glass here, and I'm going to take just a little bit of this wash and flow it over top of this. And it's going to fill in some of the areas. I think on this vehicle, we probably would have been better to try some of this dark mud wash to do this. So let's take a little bit of that. We'll take a little bit of this dark. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. So as it dries, what's going to happen is, the reason you're not seeing a whole lot of difference here is because the mud's not dry all the way. When this mud dries, the washes that we put over it will stand out better. But you kind of get the idea. You just want to take this, just wash around the areas where the mud is, just to make it stand out a little bit. And after it sets up, we'll go back and clean it off a little bit. It's to carry the hue of the mud through the whole thing. You get the idea. If you want to, you can even bring it further over. Depends on how muddy it is and how dirty it looks, and this thing's pretty darn muddy, so we're just going to carry it through most of the side of the vehicle. So what I'll do is I'll cap that up, cap my other bottle, clean my brush off a little bit. And what I like to do on a big flat surface like this is use a square brush, a chisel type brush, because then I can go over the bigger areas. Just dampen it with some of this white spirit, get most of it off just so it's damp, and go over these areas and just clean up some of that overflow. Because remember, you don't want to be perfect because you're weathering, you're putting mud on something. It's supposed to look kind of irregular. Put a little more here. I like to clean off the flat surfaces just a little bit. I think you guys get the idea. Clean just a little bit more here. See, so you're basically putting a shadow around the mud, because we know that it's not going to dry in a straight line. If you use a lot of thinner if you want to make it flow a little faster. There we go. So that's using the AK Interactive Mud Effects enamel color set. We created mud on our tank, we highlighted and dark shaded it, and it's a great product. Check it out at megahobby.com, and that's AK Interactive Mud Effects.